Thank you, Frank. Vic Sharman speaking, and I spent a long career in transit. I worked for a little time on the interurbans, and then became involved in the planning and scheduling of the system for many years. So what we're going to look at now is the Oak Street car line, which was a one-man car operation from downtown Vancouver at Victory Square, which is where we're showing the picture now, going south on Cambie Street and then ending in Marpole. So as we look at this scene, we see the car heading south on Cambie Street coming down to Robson, and there's another Oak Street car coming towards us. This line was equipped with double-end one-man cars, mostly the Brill type cars, which were quite comfortable in the latter days. The cars had been rebuilt and equipped with leather seats and one-man controls, dead-man operation, and so on, and provided a fairly comfortable but somewhat slow ride. This scene is crossing the old Cambie Bridge, which of course has now been replaced by the new Cambie Bridge, or Connaught Bridge. And the cars had to go very slow through the center span as the span swung, and of course the trolley overhead had pans at each end of the span, which required slow negotiating in order not to lose the trolley pole. This scene shows us coming off Cambie Bridge, or Connaught Bridge, and down towards 6th Avenue. And you might get a glimpse of the City Hall just up in the left, although I think we might have lost it. And this is coming south on Cambie to Broadway. Here's the car approaching Broadway, making preparation to make a right turn to go westbound on Broadway, or shared trackage with the Fairview Beltline. And proceeding west on Broadway, passing Willow Street, I believe, Heather Street, in the vicinity of the Vancouver General Hospital. There's a Fairview Outer Belt car just past us there. And now we're coming up towards Laurel Street, and then very shortly we'll make a left turn onto Oak Street. There's the car approaching Oak Street, turning into Oak, and there's a northbound car just ready to leave Oak to turn east onto Broadway. There's quite a sharp grade between Broadway, which is 9th Avenue, and then 10th Avenue, and we're just crossing 10th Avenue now. To the left was the old King Edward School, which has since been torn down and is now being filled in by buildings of the Vancouver General Hospital. This is the S-turn approaching 16th Avenue, and the line is double track at this point, but will soon go into single track operation. And here we are now on single track, and we're coming into 22nd Avenue, where the first passing track was. Now, this line was not equipped with any sophisticated signaling. In fact, it didn't have any signaling at all. And the single track operation was controlled by what we call staffs, just wooden sticks that had the section inscribed on them where the staff was giving the motorman the right-of-way to travel in that section. So as the motorman approaches the 22nd Avenue siding here, he has to wait for the northbound car to come. And here's the northbound car coming. You see the motorman, or operators, we call the one-man operators, handing the staff across. So now the southbound operator is in possession of the staff, which gives him the right to travel in that single track section up to the next passing siding further up the hill. This scene shows us crossing 25th Avenue, and you can see there's a siding into 25th Avenue, or King Edward Avenue. We're now approaching Shaughnessy Hospital, and there weren't many shelters on this line, but you saw there was a shelter there at the hospital, I guess for the benefit of people visiting the hospital, perhaps. And, rather unique for that line. Most of the stops were just in the open, marked by cards or posters on the telephone poles. We're now going up the hill towards 37th Avenue, and to the right now is the Van Dusen Gardens. And of course, at that time, the golf course, Quilchena Golf Course, was in place there. To the left is the high school, and here's a picture now of the car southbound coming up the hill towards 37th Avenue. And again, we have a meet, and you'll note the operators will exchange staffs and gain possession of the correct staff to allow them to proceed on to the next section. This is a very simple system, and yet it was fairly effective. We're now coming south on Oak Street and approaching 41st Avenue, and of course to the left now is the Oak Ridge Transit Center, and to the right is the Louis Breyer Home and Hospital, but at that time the Quilchena Golf Course was in place at that point. And it's hard to imagine that this intersection is so busy today. When you look back 40 years ago, it was quite quiet. Now there's one of the Fagel buses crossing, and of course those buses were bought in great numbers and became the replacement vehicles for many of the streetcar lines as they were converted from rail to rubber. We're now proceeding south on Oak Street between 41st and 49th Avenue. And to the left there was a gun club, which has since relocated to Lulu Island in Richmond. And this was all very sparsely populated area at the time. Going into another siding, and again there will be the exchange of the staff from the other car. All the equipment we've noted thus far in this film are the J.G. Brill cars. These were built in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and were renovated, however, in the Kitsilano shops in Vancouver. Now proceeding south on Oak on the downgrade towards Marpole, and this would be in the vicinity of about 54th Avenue. And the gentle curve as we come in towards 57th Avenue. I believe this is 57th Avenue, if I remember correctly. The one-man cars, of course, were marked by the X on the front, the two triangle shapes, which indicated to the public that these cars would be entered by the front door. The two-man cars didn't have such markings, and of course passengers entered by the rear doors. These particular cars had double stream front doors and then a single exit treadle door at the other end. And again, a further meet. This is the last meet point before the terminus at Marpole. As I recall, I think the cars ran on about a 10-minute basic headway, and during rush hours there would be double heading because they couldn't improve the headways because of the spacing of the passing sidings. So at times in rush hours there'd be two cars running on the same schedule to provide increased capacity. Now the car has left Oak Street and is now on Marine Drive, and in fact I believe at this point has come to the actual terminus in Marpole. And that's verified by the fact that the operator has got out and is now putting up the other trolley pole and removing the other pole to change ends. These cars were double enders with controls in each end. And so the car is now leaving on its return trip to Vancouver.